Hey everybody, welcome back to When Harry Met Board Games, where we feed our people with relatable content and our victory condition is your satisfaction. I'm Harry and today we have another top 10, or I should say a top 5 list. Today I'll be covering my top 5 pirate themed games. And pirate themes, the romanticized, fantastical kind of iteration of pirate stories, these stories have always been appealing to me. I loved Peter Pan and Captain Hook when I was a child. And, similar ideas and concepts. Pirates of the Caribbean is an amazing franchise of movies. So I do like the theme, and I find that it lends itself to some pretty good gameplay integration. I do think that with pirate themed games, more often than not, they do tend to either be very pasted on or very cutthroat, right? Even attacky, combat heavy. Because the theme in itself kind of lends itself to that and pushes the gameplay in that direction. But I'm fine with that because, again, I find the theme to be so immersive and so exciting, even for some of these pasted on ones, that it just makes for very enjoyable gameplay. So I have not played as many of these themed games as I should, right? I love the theme, and even so, I only have 7 games in my collection that I can think of that are true, tried and true pirate themed games, whether it be pasted on or not. So I'm just going to make a solid top 5 that I can recommend. So let's get straight to my number 5, which is Skull King, right here from Grandpa Beck's Games. This is a trick-taking game with a pirate theme, and I do like trick-taking, and I must say this is probably currently my favorite trick-taking game, and a large reason why is the theme, right? Because thematically speaking, most trick-taking games don't really have a theme, and when they do have a theme, it's not one that really appeals to me. But this one appeals to me. Again, there is a little bit of pirate flavor, a little bit of logical gameplay implementation based on the pirate theme, but for the most part, yes, this is an abstract, pasted-on theme. However, from a gameplay perspective, one of the reasons why it's my favorite is because it accommodates 2 players and it plays very well at 2 players. A lot of the other trick-taking games that I own need 3, sometimes even 4 players as a minimum. So that's one. And one of the reasons why it plays good is because at 2 players is because it's one of those style trick-taking games where it's not just who wins the most tricks or what have you, but it's about bidding or wagering as to how many tricks you're going to win per round. And each round, you have one more card in your hand, so there's going to be more tricks that will be played. You start with your round 1. There's 10 rounds. You start round 1 with just a hand of 1, round 2 with a hand of 2, round 3 with a hand of 3, and so on and so forth. And at the beginning of each round, the dealer has to initiate a wager as to how many tricks he or she thinks they will win that turn. And you're going to lose points according to how off you are, but if you are exactly right, if you hit it right on the nail, then you're going to score 20 points per trick. But there's also some ways of scoring bonus points by capturing some very powerful cards from your opponents or some pirate character cards from their opponents. These allow you or grant the player a way of scoring more points. So I find that to be really, really cool. So again, just fun, thematically speaking, seeing the different pirates and the different images, and you got parrots and you got loot and you got treasure maps all on the imagery. You got the, skull and crossbone banner hanging on the ships. Really, really cool, fun game. It does come with an expansion straight up in this box. I have not played with the expansion. It's just a few cards. It looks like it adds some neat twist to it, but I have not played with it yet. But so far, I'm having really a lot of fun. And again, I like the idea of a trick-taking game that plays really well with 2 players. My number 5, pirate-themed game of all time, Skull King. Now we move on to my number 4. And for many people, this might be their number 1. I think this is one of the highest, if not the highest ranked pirate-themed game on BoardGameGeek.com. And that is Libertalia, designed by Paolo Mori. And this game plays from 2 to 6 players. I've only played it with 3 players. Maybe if I played at a higher player count, I actually might like it better. But here, this is a role selection game similar to games like Mission Red Planet and Citadels, where players each have an individualized deck, but they all have the same character cards. And there's actually 30 character cards, so there's a good amount of variety as far as how the games are going to play from game to game. And in each of those, the game consists of 3 rounds. Each of those rounds, players are going to have 6 different characters, right? Because there's 6 rounds in each, or 6 turns in each round, and each of those character cards are going to get played. But at the beginning of the game, every player, I'm sorry, I think you draw 9. No, you have 9 character cards, and you have to choose 6 of them for each round, because there will be 6 turns. So at the beginning of the game, every player has the same exact 9 cards, because this is randomly decided. But every player is not going to play the same 6 out of those 9, right? So going into round 2, you replenish your hand with an additional 6 cards, but you still keep the 3 unplayed cards from the previous round. And that's where players will diverge and will differentiate themselves from one another, because yes, the 3 cards that they chose not to play are going to be the little twist, because every player is going to draw the same new 6 cards to replenish, but again, those 3 cards that stay behind will make their strategies different going forward. And basically what you're trying to do in essence is play the cards that will help you capture the loot for each of the 6 days of the current round. And the loot is right there. It's visible. You know what you're getting yourself into. And mostly it consists of different treasures that score you points in different ways based on different types of collections, right? You get 2 of a kind, or you get the most, or what have you. But some of that booty, some of that loot is bad stuff. It's stuff that's detrimental to you as a player. It's stuff that curses you and takes points away from you at the end of the round, right? Or hurts you in some other way or fashion. So those are things you're trying to factor in. So as you're looking at the 6 days of the week, and you're looking at your hand of roll cards, and you're budgeting your decisions, you're not only thinking, hey, which days do I want to win? You're also thinking which days I don't want to lose, because in priority order, from whoever played the highest valued card on a current day to whoever played the lowest, that's how players are going to choose and select one of the booty tokens, right? So again, sometimes you might really want to be first in one compartment because of how good the stuff is, but you might want to save some of those cards to prevent you from being last on a future day, where again, there might be more than one, curse tokens there, or more than one bad loot or booty item, and you want to prevent yourself from having to gain them, right? Because if not, then you're obligated to gain those booty tokens. So it's a really cool, neat, set collection game with some nice roll selection. It's a little bit light, very quick game. I mean, especially with 3 players, I feel like it only took about half an hour. So it's a good gameplay, good gateway style game with a pirate theme. But for now, it's only my number 4. Let's see, with more play, with higher player counts, if it bumps up. Libertalia. Now we move on to my number 3 pirate themed board game of all time. And this used to be my number 1. And honestly speaking, I still think it has a chance of coming back to number 1. But I have grown a little cold on it, even though I still think it's an amazing game. And that is Jamaica, designed by Ludovic Mablanc, Malcolm Brath, and Sebastian Palchon. And Sebastian Palchon, he's worked on some other stuff I can't think off the top of my head recently. But these are good designers. This is a good game, pirate themed game, where players are racing around the island of Jamaica, right? Go figure, it's called Jamaica. And they're trying to be the first player to make it to Port Royal, because if you're the first player to make it to Port Royal, you're going to get a big chunk of points and really increase, if not guarantee, your chances of winning the game. However, there is no guarantee, because there's so many other ways of scoring points. When you gain treasure, gold coin, either from going to places, going to specific places, or playing the cards, because this is a program movement game where you're playing cards before the turn begins. Every player reveals it simultaneously, and in turn order, they carry out whatever movement their ship does, whatever acquisition of resources they do. There's 2 types of resources, or 3 types of resources, really. There's food, which is very helpful for travel. There's money, which is helpful for victory points, and also for landing on some very expensive port spaces that are around the island. And finally, there's cannon tokens, which are very helpful for when you engage in combat with other pirates out there on the seas, right? And you do engage in lots of combat. The higher the player count, the more likely you're going to bump into each other, because that's how you enter into combat. You both must end up in the same space. Really cool. So you got the victory points from the coins. You also got treasure caves all around Jamaica that you could explore. If you're the first person there, you get the treasure. And most of those treasure cards give you good things, either specific items that help you or help your ship, or treasure, which increases your victory points at the end of the game, but there are a few of those treasure cards there, just like 2 or 3 of them, that are cursed. They're bad. They subtract for your point total. So there is a little bit of push your luck, press your luck every time you explore one of those caves. And there's hidden information because nobody knows what you've acquired. So they might see a whole bunch of treasure cards and be a little bit intimidated, but little do they know that some of those cards are treasure cards and they kind of all cancel each other out. So really cool from that perspective. I love games that have some element of hidden scoring. I love race themed games. I like action or program movement. So all of these things really work well. And even the combat really works well because those cannon tokens make you feel a little bit more secure. Me, really, it's a roll to resolve, dice rolling. I usually feel very insecure about that mechanism, but the idea that I can add some ammunition with these cannon tokens is really exciting. However, you do have to make that decision before the roll of the die. So sometimes after you roll amazingly, you're like, oh, I didn't need to throw in that many cannon tokens. I regret it. I want them back. But it's fine. And there's also one of the 6 sides of the combat die has a little like star symbol. And that's actually an automatic win. So that's really cool because sometimes somebody rolls something that mathematically combined with their cannon tokens is impossible. But you still have that 1 out of 6 chance of winning the combat, which is exactly why when you mess with people in this game, you better think twice. Really cool game, beautiful artwork, beautiful components. Even the mechanism as to how you decide how much players will be doing throughout the turn, because you roll these 2 dice, 6-sided dice with 1 through 6 pips on each side of the each face of the die, and you assign one of the dice to the day action and the night action, which corresponds with the program card that you're choosing at the beginning of the turn. And based on the number of pips on the day dice, that's how many times you could execute the day action on your card. And based on the number of pips on the night die is how many times you could activate the night action of your die. So even rolling those dice, trying to figure it all out as the active player, choosing which die should go on the morning phase and which one should go on the night phase. So many really cool mechanical elements to this game. The pirate flavor is nice because each player's program cards are based on an actual historical or recognized pirate within pirate lore. My number 3 pirate board game of all time, Jamaica. And now we move on to my number 2, and it is Port Royal, designed by Alexander Pfister. And this is a nice press your luck type of game. I feel like pirate themed games lend themselves to 2 types of things. 1, combat, and 2, push your luck, right? Like the riskiness of trying to gain treasure at the expense of facing casualties. This game is really cool. You're just simply drawing cards into a tableau, a general tableau. And then when you are done drawing cards, when you feel like you're done, you can get money from one of their ships. However, if you ever draw 4 ships of 4 different nations, because there's 5 different nations representing the different ships that are in the deck of cards, if you ever draw a 4th ship, you are entitled to select 2 of those ships and get money from both of them, as opposed to just getting 1. However, if you ever draw a 2nd card of a nation that's already been drawn, you bust. Your turn is over. There's nothing else you can do. But there are ways of mitigating this luck because you have different characters, and the characters really are the bread and butter of the game because the first player to 12 points wins the game, and the character cards are the ones that have the victory points on the upper right-hand corner, right? So they score you different points in different ways, and they also give you different benefits, different special abilities. And some of those characters help you mitigate your luck because they add combat to you as a player, so you can fight some of those ships so that when a duplicate ship shows up, you can just repel it, fight it, and send it away and not have to bust, or at least decrease your chances of busting. Now, if you really want to push your luck, you could keep on drawing until you have all 5 different nations represented in ships. And then you get to choose 3 of those ships and get their money. Really cool game where players could benefit. They could pay the active player in order to do something on their turn. So yes, you know, you're giving a little something to your opponent, but hopefully it's worth it because you're getting a lot more back in return for your turn. Really cool game, fun game. The busting element is fun. The press your luck is cool, but at the same time, I'm not really a big fan of push your luck when it's over the top. But in this case, it feels like the active player has lots of control, not only in just the whether or not he chooses to keep on drawing, but again, just the choosing how to assemble his characters in ways that optimize his turns, that mitigate the luck to some extent, and just knowing the odds. Now, there is imperfect information because every time the cards are discarded, they're discarded face down, so players cannot card count and know, mathematically speaking, their odds. It really is a gamble each and every single time you draw from the card, but it adds to that fun factor. And I guess the theme, what better theme for this style of game than a pirate theme? My number 2 pirate themed game of all time, Port Royal. And now we move on to my number 1, and this is a grail game for me that I finally played and I fell in love with, and that is Pirates Cove. And this is designed by Paul Randalls and Daniel Stahl, and it is published, or was published, by Days of Wonder Games. This game is out of print, and it is a wonderful game. First of all, it has program movement, simultaneous program movement, similar to Jamaica, where at the beginning of the turn, each player or each pirate is choosing on this circular dial which island they want to go to, because there are 7 islands on the board, right? Only 6 of them can you choose to go to for your beginning of your turn. And each of these islands benefit you in different ways. First of all, they each have a face-up treasure card that tells you how much treasure will go to the pirate, and treasure is a currency in itself that gives you victory points. Ultimately, these brown cubes here are your treasure. So these cards tell you how much treasure you're going to get. They're going to tell you how much coin you're going to get, how much money you're going to get, because coins can give you victory points, but more than anything, they give you options for different things throughout the game. So they tell you how much treasure you get, how much coins you get. They tell you how much victory points you can get straight up. You can get a certain amount of victory points and advance yourself on the victory point track. And they tell you, what else is it that they tell you? Let's see here. So they tell you how much victory points you'll get, how much coin you'll get, how much treasure cards you get, and whether or not you get a tavern card, which is a different type of card, which benefits you in different ways. So based on the treasure card on a given island, and also the special ability that the island has, because each island has its own special ability. For the most part, they let you upgrade different parts of your ship, and your ship is represented here. First of all, you do have a physical ship piece that you're moving on the board, guys. Don't worry about that. But you have your player board, which represents the 4 different sections of your ship that you're trying to upgrade. You're trying to have the fastest ships because that gives you priority in combat, which there ends up being lots of in this game. You trying to keep a good balance of crew members and cannon, because that increases the amount of dice you roll when you enter into combat. And you're trying to keep your hull or your storage as high as possible, because that increases how much treasure you can hold at a given time, right? So you're going to these different islands in order to upgrade the different parts of your island. But as you're factoring this decision in right before the round begins, you're not only factoring in what island is most beneficial to you, but you're also looking at your opponents and thinking, where are they going to go? Because ideally, perhaps, I want to avoid combat, because every time combat happens, there's the potential for casualties. Your different sections of your ship are going to take a loss. You might end up retreating, or even worse, being forced to retreat, which actually gives victory points to any opponents that remain behind as you retreat to Pirates Cove, which is the safe haven for all pirates. So factoring these things in, knowing when to capitalize, when to go to Treasure Island, which is like a neutral space where all pirates can go to and not necessarily fight each other. So you could dump off some treasure, score some victory points because there's nowhere else to go. Factoring all these things in is so cool. You also have some legendary pirates, and the game comes with cards that represent these legendary pirates, and of course a ship that you place on the board to represent them. But the legendary pirates all have different stats and skills, and there's always one in a game, and that legendary pirate is rotating at a fixed rotation around the board, so you know where the legendary pirate will strike next. And sometimes that's the challenge, because these legendary pirates are pretty much impossible to beat one-on-one. Maybe 2 or 3 pirates that happen to gang up on them will ultimately win the fight, but one-on-one, you're not going to beat one of these legendary pirates. So as you're making your decisions, when you're programming your movement, you're thinking, I do not want to go to that island because I know that that's where the legendary pirate is. And it's so frustrating that the timing worked out that way. So many cool elements and fun decisions and management going on in this game. Really cool, beautiful board, even by modern standards, and definitely by 2002 standards when this game was first printed. My number 1 pirate themed board game of all time, Pirates Cove. And that's it, folks. That's it for my top 5 pirate themed board games. Tell me what you think. Comment down below. Let me know if you even like pirate-themed games. Which of these do you like the most? Perhaps there's some pirate-themed games out there that you've played that I've not played, because I know I haven't played a lot of them. Tell me which ones are your favorite. I'm curious and interested in reading what you guys have to say. This is Harry from When Harry Met Board Games saying take care, everybody. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have fun gaming. Bye-bye.